Hello and welcome to the Boat Shed. Not a lot of things last for 100 years in the marine environment, but some do, and stick around and I'll show what I mean. Now my name is John and this boat here is Antidote. I'm an engineer and a sailor with the dream of fixing up this old boat to go sailing around the world, but we have a lot of work to do first. Now unfortunately today I'm recovering from a little minor surgery, but don't worry, I'm going to be just fine. So I thought I'd take you all on a little field trip. Let's saddle up. Welcome to YVR Airport. We are on our way today to DC. We're going to try to meet up with Bridget. Well, we're going to meet up with Bridget. And we've got Nico here with us. I love coming to this airport. It's a really cool, beautiful airport, as much as they can be, you know. We're on our way. And just like that, it's a fresh day here in Washington, D.C. We have a free day here today while Bridget's in law school class. And I thought that it would be really fun to check out some of the rich maritime things in the area. What I want to do today is go and visit a company that's been operating in the marine space for over 100 years. And I bet you that if you have a boat, you've got some of their products on your boat already. And I'm really excited to go see them, see what they do, and how their facility operates. I really enjoy the opportunity to get a behind-the-scenes peek when I can, and to share it with you guys is really fun for me. So I hope that you enjoy this. We're going to drop in on Groco, Gross Mechanical Labs. They've been in the Maryland area for over 100 years. So we're going to meet with Dan, who's their VP, and he's going to show us around the facility, show us what they do, and really excited about that. So here we go. It's always really fun for me to visit a new area. You know, it's like everything is the same but different. You know, like the roads are really similar, but everything is a little odd and you're not really sure where you are. It's always a fun little adventure. And my first impressions of the DC area have been that there's a lot of really amazing sights to see. I've just sort of driven by things and sort of seen them from the road. I haven't visited anything yet. I've only been here for a couple of hours. I have to say that I've had a lot of encounters with really poor driving so far in the area. I don't know, is that a thing? Do you guys, are Washington DC drivers notoriously difficult to get along with? There's a lot of driving in between lanes and just sort of going wherever and whenever you want and not stopping and all kinds of fun stuff. So. Hi, yeah, I'm John. I'm here to see Dan.
He's in the conference room if you'd like to go in.
Awesome, thanks. That's just
Yes, sir.
right through here? Okay, great. Hey, I'm looking for Dan.
Huh? That'd be me.
Hey, good to meet you. John.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
Dan Phelan.
Right on. Thanks for having me, Dan.
Grab a seat.
Gross Mechanical Labs.
That's it.
So how did we get from Gross Mechanical to Groco? Is it like Gross Co?
I believe 100 years ago, that was kind of the trend. You had Groco, Perco, you get into PepsiCo. That was just kind of how it was done.
Kind of working the way. So 1918 was when they founded the company.
1918, they opened the doors. They spent the first couple of decades getting involved in a huge variety of different things.
Right.
I think the original owner had a patent on what at the time was considered to be the first automobile tail light, the predecessor to a snowball machine,
Okay.
you know, where you're grinding
Like a
ice
snow
and making
cone?
snow cones.
Oh, really?
They had the original patents on that back then, and the owner was a huge marine guy.
Okay.
Like, huge marine guy.
Pleasure boat.
Pleasure boat racing, things like that, which really wasn't common at the time. So you had these guys in the 20s that would get into racing, and that's what he did. So that was his passion. So he got into that. We made some marine heads. We made different types of valves and strainers. And then it kind of hit World War II when the U.S. government said, well, you know, we like what everybody's doing, but we're going to need you to do this instead.
like a lot of industries, you were sort of brought into manufacture of certain products.
Exactly what happened. We have some products we still make today. We made some predecessors to products that we still make today.
Have evolved.
Yeah, correct. The first two major things that we did, we got into duplex strainers, which allowed the landing crafts like the Higgins boats in Normandy and in the South Pacific to be able to land, get everybody off the boat, and then hightail it back out of there without clogging the strainers full of sand, install engine motors.
So this is like your Raycor dual filter.
Exactly what it is, except it's for raw water.
For raw
That's exactly
water.
what it is.
So you can plug it up and then you can flip it.
Yep.
Get the heck out of there.
That's exactly what it was. So those Higgins ships were pretty basic at the time. I mean, it was
Yeah.
basically a tub with a motor and a steering wheel. Replacing that single strainer with a duplex saved a lot of lives. I mean, it's something as basic and simple as that.
Right.
And we made oil coolers that were used in tanks and I believe in marine also, which we still make today for the industrial market. It's the original design, original patterns, original castings, original processes, everything.
So I'm here. We have sort of the original founder, a real innovative guy, obviously.
He was a tinkerer by trade. That's what he did.
He liked to invent, and he's got how many? Do we know how many patents he has?
I don't know how many, but we've got prints all over the walls as far as the ones that he's done. The ones that are in this room are a little more modern, but we've still got his original patents. Many that we could find hanging from the early 19-teens before the official founding.
Wow, what an ingenuity!
And he did it in the basement of a row house in Baltimore, and it kind of grew from there into a real facility prior to World War II.
Neat. Wow, that real industrious spirit.
That was it.
And he happened to really like pleasure boats, so it was a good fit.
Correct.
So there's a passion there built in, and then the company has grown from there.
I think those trophies over there were his from racing in the 20s.
Right, that's cool. Because I mean, I see in a lot of your products, like let's for example, do you know when the BV valve was first introduced?
I want to say that one was introduced in the 80s. Okay. I'm not positive the day off the top of my head.
So that would have been early in the ball valve technology, but that valve hasn't really changed much.
Hasn't changed.
So
that's
cool.
We'll dabble in materials by way of seals,
right.
Different processes for making the seats, for machining and molding. Aside from that, you're looking at solid bronze components, you're looking at a 316 stainless ball, 316 driver.
So I think a lot of your products speak to that longevity.
That's the goal.
You know, because they haven't really changed much in 40 years or even longer probably.
Some, yeah.
You know, and except for maybe some
generational changes.
Like you said, manufacturing processes.
Manufacturing processes, it's bulletproof and it lasts forever, so there's not many things you really need to change.
Right.
We've always strived to make the best product you can make and not really focused on the cost so much.
Okay.
Which will limit your market when you do that.
Yeah.
We found ways over the last 10 to 15 to 20 years to be able to do both, to be able to make a high-end product at a now more of a reasonable price or a competitive price that gets you involved in more aspects of the market. So we're certainly a major player in all aspects of the industry.
But you're not really interested in offering the cheapest of anything. You have a sort of a standard that you want to hit.
You always lose a race to the bottom. So that's something that we just don't do. Some of the products we make are relatively simple mechanically. At the end of the day, a valve or a fitting is a valve or a fitting, but our design work that goes into it, it's not treated like it's a commodity. We're not buying somebody else's thing. We have something designed, we're considering materials, considering thicknesses, and we build because if the owner is going to put it on his boat, it better be right.
And so now if I understand correctly, you've been working with foundries in the area since the company was
pretty much started. Yeah. We've been with our core foundry, which is in Pennsylvania, for a good 80 years at this point.
So a lot of your products they're cast in Pennsylvania, they come over here, and then
we run them through a full manufacturing process here. Could be as simple as needing to just grind something down to pretty complicated machine operations on others ranging from, a tenth of a pound up to close to 100 pounds, if not more in some cases per casting.
Right, but a lot of your products are 100% American made.
100% American made.
That is really cool.
A lot of our products are. There are some items that we'll have made for us. It's our design, it's our tooling, it's our spec. They get 100% QC'd here. A lot of times there's value added that's done to it in-house. The U.S. made items are 100% done in-house.
Wow, start to finish, packed and
start to
shipped.
finish, from bringing in raw materials, from raw castings, full machine work, full QC work, assembly work, testing work, secondary QC work, packaging, shipping, start life in this building and they leave.
That's really cool.
Yep. There are areas in this industry for sure where you've got some very expensive assets that you purchased and you're using regularly that you need to protect. Products that we make are the first line to keep them off the bottom of the ocean. So
right, I can appreciate that. I mean, someone that has a 20-year-old jet ski that they just run around their lake, they might not need the heaviest duty valve.
Absolutely not.
With my 46-foot monohull that I want to be cruising all around the world on, I need to be able to rely on those components and trust them and be able to rebuild them if needed. And so that's where maybe something like
absolutely
yours,
right, and that's what it's built for. So Like I said, the pedigree of the company from the owners all the way back, that's the exact lifestyle that they've lived, being on boats, going places on boats, living their life on the water. You've experienced some good things and you experienced some bad things. And if you can build a product to hedge off some of those bad things, it's the way to do it. We make a few different tiers of items, all of which are high end, but there's some that are closer to a price point than others. Again, they're not built to a price point. They're built to a standard that we want from a design that we created, and we find out how much it's going to cost after we develop it. So there's not a pipe fitting that we sell that's not hands-on inspected, reviewed, in some cases pressure tested for even a pipe fitting to make sure that it's going to hit the standards that we require.
Periodic QC that you do to verify?
Not even periodic, it's 100%.
100%.
If we buy 10,000 pieces of one fitting, 10,000 pieces have hands on
100%. Wow, that's incredible. So you are fully trust but verify.
Correct.
Well, I'm really excited to take a look at what you've got in the shop.
Yeah, I think some eye-opening things back there.
Before we get to it, I see some really interesting machines in here. Can you tell me about what's going on here?
Yeah, currently that's a conference room showpiece.
Okay.
But about 5 or 6 years ago, that was in full operation 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, and has been so since the early 1920s. I believe the manufacturer date on that machine is 1921. I'm not positive, but it's in that range. What we were doing with that most recently was drilling, tapping, and countersinking the inlet and the outlet holes in all of our different strainers that we make.
Okay.
And it would run nonstop. So we would do between 3/4 of an inch up to 3 inch with that machine and another machine that was similar to it.
Wow.
That machine is still the best machine in this building, despite all the most technological advances we have back there. You hear the term, they don't make them like they used to.
Right.
That's a prime example of that.
example.
I mean, it's all cast iron gearings. I mean, these gears back there are huge.
And it's been running for 100 years.
100 years, almost nonstop.
And the gears are looking pretty good.
We can't buy replacements, so I mean, that's...
The machine still runs.
If you could get a power source in here to run that machine, you could turn it on right now and make parts.
That's pretty cool.
Yep. Despite being manual, it's a very, very fast manufacturing process on that. You were just, however, limited to one machine per size. And as you're growing and you need to be able to increase capacity, you just simply can't do it with a machine like that.
Wow.
So while it worked great and still works great, it became not the right tool for the job.
Okay. Well, can we see the facility?
If you've got a couple minutes, that'd be great.
I've got one in a couple minutes. I'm really excited to check it out.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's
take a walk.
All right, sounds great.
Starting off, every week we get in deliveries of castings from our local foundry, which is about 2 hours away in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They deliver a variety of shapes and sizes of castings. We have about 500 or so different castings that we'll use, which we will run through the machines in a variety of different capacities and fashions depending on the parts. So this one is a large twin turret single spindle machine. So we're able to run both sides of a part within one setup.
Oh, I see. So you got here one guy there.
Yep. So this will reach over, grab the component, bring it back over, and then this side of the spindle will machine that. So you can essentially run two at one.
Really cool.
This machine over here is identical, except instead of a twin turret, as a single turret and a tailstock, so you can run larger pieces that require support on the back. So if you have something like plug like this, and we make some that are much larger, you would hold it in the chuck here, and then, or vice versa, and then hold it on the tailstock this way. So when you spin it, you don't risk this; it stays completely straight.
Wow.
So those machines are intended for that.
Really cool.
This machine is from the mid-1990s, and we keep it for one purpose. And it's to only run one part because it still works for that, and there's no real reason to get rid of it. The mills generally are for simpler jobs now. We used to make quite a variety of things in there, but we've been moving parts from our older equipment to some of the new modern machinery, which have lights out capabilities to run 24/7, and they do that in different capacities.
You guys are keeping this foundry in Pennsylvania really busy.
We are. We actually picked up another foundry in New Jersey because they weren't able to keep up with the work over the last few years. The industry as a whole really started skyrocketing since COVID, and we all know the supply chain hassles that came as a result. We, in order to continue to grow the way we were growing, had to change our supply chain, and which is not something you don't take lightly when it comes to something like a casting. It's easy to make a shape with a pattern, but to really do it right, get the pour temperatures right, the drying times right, so that you get a quality casting is something that's not always easy to do. It's something we take very, very seriously, especially since some of our castings are large. You can run into issues where even after you machine everything, you could get it up and you have horrible leaking issues as a result of voids, porosity, things like that. So,
how many pounds of bronze do you go through in a week here? What's the output on?
About 10,000.
10,000 pounds of bronze?
Just from the machining, yes.
And what's the current price of bronze per pound right now?
That I don't know. Yeah. These are the last of the old school types of machines that we have. This one is a small live tool machine. You know, I mean, it's a no frills type machine, but it kind of gets the job done for easy things. In 2016, we purchased these two machines. And the intent there was to take, if I can find one. Let me back up a little bit.
Sure.
We would buy our strainer heads from our foundry, have them trucked down. We would run them in 6 different CNC lathes that did not have live tooling, that would simply thread and do the machining operations on 2 of the sides of this product. It would then go to a manual drill press department where they would drill, tap, and counter. This is a scrap piece, by the way. But they would drill, tap, and countersink all of these holes. It would then go to a grinding department where they would manually grind the faces on these. It would then go to the spindle department, which I showed you that example up there, where they would drill and tap and countersink this.
Right.
So it would take a significant amount of time from the time we got the raw castings in and started to be machined to get them from department to department.
Yeah.
Very, very slow. We weren't able to keep up with any level of growth as a result. So what we did is we brought these 2 machines in. Which started to take a significant workload away from how we used to do it and allow the parts to come off of these machines complete. We still would run some of the other styles the old way because we still needed to make more, but a machine like this would allow us to run both sides of that part and all of the other subsequent work without any other steps. So it wasn't the fastest machine run in the world. It still might take 12 minutes a piece, or 20 minutes depending on the size, but it would come off complete. So instead of waiting months or weeks, depending on what it was, to get an entire batch out, we were getting finished product every single day up to assembly. Yeah. So we went from taking a couple of months to get a batch done to 40 a day. He's running the second side here, so it's a 2-stage operation for this. Right. And the reason they don't just flip it over is that the setup's different to hold it. So they'll do one side, second side, and then it's done. So you still have the same benefit of it being finished.
So the BV valves are all raw cast, and you do all the machining and building
every
here.
Yep, every single bit.
So that's a 100% American-made valve.
100% American-made. And then all assembled and tested upstairs, and the testing will range from a few minutes up to an hour of full pressure test, depending on what it is. We then switched to this machine, a twin spindle, twin turret lathe. We've got a robot arm above it that's sitting up here. What'll happen is it's got 2 sets of jaws on it. It'll come down, grab this completed part, because this side will be totally finished, move up. This arm will come out, grab this, slide it over to prepare for the second operation. The arm will then come down, load a new raw casting here, and then they'll both shoot off and start running. Right. By bringing this machine in and doing the exact same process as we did there, we went from being able to run 40 a day to 220 a day.
So you've gone from 40 a day to 220 a day, and what kind of appreciable differences in quality or...
The quality is about the same because it's extremely repeatable. We know the amount of time needed in order to change tooling, to change inserts, to make sure that we are repeating the same, the same exact runs. Right, so that's been fine. One thing that's worth noting about automation is people often consider it to be a job killer. For us, increased our capacity to the point that we're able to make enough to continue with demand and develop new products to create demand. We've been able to shift the employment from higher end people to run these types of machines, and then also being able to take the staff that we would have otherwise had as an operator and have them work in the assembly departments or different areas in the building. So we've grown as a result of automation, which has resulted in higher employment versus what's often considered to be ways to remove people.
So as you've moved to more automation, you really haven't had to let a lot of staff go. You've been able to...
We've grown. We've added.
Been growing.
Because now, instead of 40 pieces a day, we have 220 pieces a day. And being able, and that's just for one part. It's true for more than that.
Right.
We've added employment from our other local injection molded manufacturers because now we need more components. Right. We've got more people upstairs putting things together, and it's been growth across the board as a result.
That's great. Wow, that's really
And
cool.
from the foundry, we're able to add more foundries because we need to be able to get parts made.
So Groco, making jobs here and
making jobs.
That's great.
This machine, it's a fully automated machine, and it is the best machine in the building. So using this as an example, this is a duplex strainer that requires 5 operations. The first, the way we used to do it is we would turn this down in a lathe to give us straight mounting pads.
Yeah.
From there, it would go to a mill. This would get milled off in one run. It would get flipped over. This side would get milled in a second run. It would then go back to the lathe where we would then do the bore. So actually for this case, it's 4 different operations.
Okay.
And it would have to go in line into 4 different machines. So in order to get one batch of castings, you might be 6 weeks before you could get it through all the different machines.
Right.
For the same result, we're able to take this part, mount it into one of what we call tombstones on the horizontal mill. This will be done complete in 45 minutes. The tombstone itself has fixtures that are created to hold whatever casting.
This is what you're calling a tombstone right
Correct,
here?
the
This,
entire unit.
The whole, like...
Yep,
yeah.
the entire fixture set. We'll bolt these castings to them in the way we see fit in order to fixture them. We have to make your own fixtures in order to do it.
Sure.
The machine knows what's on that tombstone is part number A. And it knows that it's section number 1. You can see the number on it. You tell the machine part number A is on section number 1 and it needs program number 83.
Right.
It will grab the parts, shove it into the machine, and knows what part it is, what fixture it is, and what program it needs, and will machine it. So the machine itself has no breakdown of fixturing, no breakdown of tooling. It will run for months on end without interruption if you can feed it long enough.
Right. So I see, like, there are, like you said, there's lots of different types of fixtures in here on these
Correct.
tombstones.
Yep.
Like these batches. So does it read what is on the fixture, or do you have to program and tell it?
So
Has it ever
the
happened where you've given it the wrong?
Thankfully, no.
Okay.
Because you'll break some
Because
expensive
you'll hit the
things.
hard steel.
Exactly, and you'll hit it at a speed that you don't want to
That
hit
you don't
it.
want, because you're thinking you're coming at bronze.
It thinks
and
you have
you're
2 more
hitting-
inches to go,
and
and
you're
you don't.
coming
and
into
you're-
hardened
It's
steel
like hitting
real
the car
fast.
against the wall.
Because there's looks like 4 or 5 different fixtures in there. Just I see some
Currently-
PV valves. I see some pump housings.
Yep. All we do is put it in, tell the machine, and it runs them. It's a single tool mill with the tool change system is on the other side of the wall. It'll rotate tooling out as needed based off what the program calls for, and the turntable will rotate on 1 degree increments in order to allow the machine to access all the parts that it needs to access. The tool changer for this machine is incredible. These are all the tools that machine uses. There's planned duplication of tooling in there, so certain levels of wear per tool. It knows I use station 4 517 times, and then it will move to station 5 the next time it calls for that tool. One of the most notable things that are run there, I don't have a casting here to show you, there's some in the warehouse, but we'll do the 6-inch strainer heads, which are 95-pound castings that will do, again, in one operation.
Wow, that's incredible. 95-pound
95-pound casting. It'll do it in one operation as opposed to 2 months, which is what we used to have to do the old way that we would go about it.
What's this old guy here?
Tool, a bit sharpener.
Sharp.
Yeah, so
sharpener?
they'll do different types of tool sharpening and grinding with
okay.
it. And that's still used every day.
This is probably an ancient piece, isn't it?
Old brown and sharp. Yeah, it doesn't have anything on that.
I guess I'm just struck by the amount. These all represent a boat somewhere. It's just incredible to me that there's this much.
Every one of those is actually sold. Those.
Are these
If
the
those,
500s or
these are the 1 inch. Yeah.
one
If these were,
yeah.
if we had these up in assembly now and out the door, they'd be already on their way to a builder.
Wow, amazing.
So the inventory levels, although it seems somewhat significant, they're almost all spoken
Incredible.
for. So the efficiencies that we've got, and one other thing, by the way, just general employment, the guys that come in here, and women actually, that come in here to work in the machine shop, get to work with the latest and greatest equipment. We've got heavy investment in the machinery. They've got a gentleman who runs the engineering department who has significant background in a variety of avenues of the manufacturing field. So they've got somebody to learn from, they've got somebody to train them, they've got equipment to learn and grow with. So from that aspect, it's a really great place for some of these guys that do have a goal of getting into manufufacturing. You know, they can grow.
You get to learn on the job.
Correct, and you can grow.
That's very cool. And are you finding that these machines are coming down in price?
No.
No, not really.
Well, to be fair, I don't have anything to compare it to, because some of these larger automated machines, that's the first time we've ever dabbled. The cost, I would imagine, is continuing to be relatively similar when it comes to some of these lathes, but what you get for the money is changing.
Yeah.
We're easily into this machine for $1 million. Wow. That machine, probably higher than that, because there's multiple things that go into it. There's unbelievable fixturing costs. There's an excessive amount of tooling that goes into it.
Yeah.
There's more involved with that. So it's a significant investment, but it, from day one, has proved worthwhile.
Yeah.
So we were looking at the drawing downstairs of, the one that Don happens to have of these. So the headers used to be manually drilled, and the header being this piece here. Now we get them in the mill. And when I was in my 20s, we'd be behind on production. I was out here helping the drill press guys drill them. It's an absolute nightmare because there's, in some cases, 100 and...
larger one.
Yeah. So every one of these had to be manually drilled and countersinked on both sides.
Manually?
Manually.
I would imagine you'd blow through these holes occasionally.
That's the problem. Now this is milled, which took a significant amount of labor out. They'll go down, hand cut every single one of these, deburr them, hand hammer with a little, hammer and a ping.
Wow.
Every one of these through two sides.
Yeah.
Which is
1,800.
yeah, so 1,800, and then you've got to flare out both sides of it. They'll take these, they'll solder dip them.
Flare. Okay.
They'll pressure test them to 200 psi. These have been tested. These haven't been dipped.
Very cool.
To do it. So and there is nothing that's changed about this since the 30s.
These were like on a lot of World War II boats
and tanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So the gasket material, to be fair, has changed, and maybe some of the plastics that are used as a washer, but the manufacturing process is not. And we still have people who more or less demand that we make them, so we continue to make them.
They like them because they work.
100% of the items that we make, whether we make them 100% in-house or whether we bring them in from someone else who did the machine work, we still do 100% checks and tests on everything that leaves our facility.
That's great. That's great. That's what we like to hear.
A significant amount of labor time and care go into each piece. So here's a breakdown of the BV. That's all that goes into it.
So this is a full BV valve?
It's a full BV valve.
Piece?
Every single piece for the small one, yes.
So we've got our C8 4400 bronze. And then we have 316 stainless.
316.
TFE.
Yep.
A rubber seal.
Yep.
And then what are these? These are just...
That's a brass nut that will hold in the 316 driver.
Right.
So the driver, along with seals, will run in here.
Wow.
And that engages the ball.
Yeah.
The handle goes on the outside of that once it's engaged. This entire thing can be disassembled very, very easily, repaired and put right back together without having to remove from the hull of your boat.
Right, so this can all stay bolted up, and you can have it down to this, plug it from the outside, and you could rebuild the whole thing.
Exactly.
So those are 4-inch valves.
These are 4-inch valves. They're big, and they're the third largest valve that we make.
Wow, what's the largest?
We make a 5-inch with a side port. We also make a 4-inch with a side port. So it's the fourth largest. The side port 4 inches bigger, and then the two different 5 inches are absolute monsters.
Wow, how much does this weigh? Ooh.
That probably weighs about 85 pounds.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's the ball that's inside the BV valve.
That's the ball that's inside the BV valve.
So what do a lot of other valves use instead of solid 316
the
stainless?
vast
You're
majority,
unique, right?
We are in this case. There may be another valve or two on the market that does use 316 or does use steel. It's not common. Most other balls that are on the market are plated brass.
Plated brass.
So chrome plated or nickel plated brass. The balls that we use on this line of products are the standard of the industry, which is going to still be plated brass. It takes a long time to build what really appears to be simple and is mechanically simple. These, it's much more consistent. Every plastic piece that's on there is a custom injection molded part, proprietary materials, UL tested, they go through the whole thing. Everything is consistent as consistent can be with these. They'll build them, they'll come over to one of two pressure test stations, pressurize it, time it, hold it to a certain pressure, watch for a pressure drop. If they don't have a pressure drop, obviously it's okay. If they do, hold it off to the side to figure out why. So they release the pressure, back it back out, and they move on to the next one.
Wow, right on.
Every single piece gets checked.
Wow.
So our electronics department,
cool.
This is where we do all the electronic valve buildings. They'll build the gearboxes, they'll do all the potting for the position indicators, which require some soldering and some circuit boards. You close that valve when it's supposed to be open, it knows it, and it will just open itself back up.
Right.
And vice versa. If you try to open it when it's closed, it will close itself. So.
If you try to physically override the motor, is there like...
You don't have to.
Okay.
So
I mean, like if it's trying to open the valve and you're trying to close it, can you...
Yes.
Does it have like a clutch?
It does. So if for some reason power is off on you when it's here and and it's not functioning the way that it's supposed to with an automatic drive or with an electrically controlled drive, simply pull the spacer out, move the cam, and you can move it in any orientation you want.
So it's full manual again.
Fully manual. And then when the time comes, you snap it back in place when you want to go back to regular operation. One thing to note too, at the end of the day, it's still a manual seacock.
Right.
It knows, actually here's the thing, it knows it's open, it knows it's closed.
Oh yeah.
You want to open it, it opens it. And if you watch this cam, the cam is pushing it, and the cam is going to move backwards as soon as it's completed its cycle.
And so by doing that, you're able to then, again, operate it like normal.
Open and close.
Oh, okay, smart.
So here we're doing all of our basket fabrication. We buy perforated sheet and a lot of it. This is a Manel sheet and we buy stainless.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 stainless or 400 or 4 or 5 Manel. A nickel-based alloy and is significantly more expensive than steel, but it is also more corrosion resistant. We offer a plastic basket. There's no corrosion whatsoever with a plastic basket.
Downside is it's less
My
durable.
own personal opinion, I don't see a downside to a plastic basket in a strainer. It won't corrode, and as stupid as this sounds, when you're cleaning it, it floats. And in this department, I want to say probably relatively unique. Every single pipe fitting that we do, whether we make it in-house or whether we have it made for us and brought in, is 100% checked. So these are all replacement baskets.
All bunch of parts. Wow.
All pipe fittings.
Just Groco as far as you can see. This is like my candy shop here.
Well, it's a garage, that's for sure.
Well, Dan, that was an awesome tour. I'm really thankful to see all it is that you guys do. And there's an obvious commitment to quality here. And it seems like everyone gets along. And it just seems like a really cool place to work.
Yeah,
so.
I appreciate the time you were able to spend and come check out what we do. I mean, we're proud of everything. So we really like it when people can come in and see the parts that they're using and where it comes from. And it kind of helps it where it goes.
Yeah, right on. Well, I'm glad to know where it's all coming from. And I'm sure we'll see some of your stuff on the boat.
Glad to hear it.
And, but yeah, thanks for your time.
Well, you're welcome anytime. Come back and feel free to visit.
Appreciate that. It's nice to be here. Huge thanks to Dan and the other folks at Groco for showing us around today. That was very interesting for me, and I hope it was for you too. It's like a really interesting intersection of old world craftsmanship and modern technology, so that's really neat. Antidote has a lot of old Groco products on board that are 35 or more years old, and there's a good chance that on your boat you do too, and maybe your grandparents' boat and their grandparents' boats. It's just been around for a really long time, and we were looking around in an old ledger while we were there and found this entry from 1920 something from Chris Craft for $240, which probably at the time bought a whole lot of gear, maybe enough for a dozen boats. We did manage to meet up with Bridget while we were in DC, and that was a lot of fun. We didn't film a whole lot of it though, but we did manage to blast around and check out the sites, and what a cool city. If you're new to the channel and like to get caught up from the beginning, there's a playlist for you right here that you can check out, and if you want to subscribe for more of these videos, usually it's just boat work, you can hit the button right there. See you next time. Are you a powerboat guy or a sailboat guy?
Powerboat guy.
Okay. Is there anyone else we can talk to?
Absolutely.